Be here?
She will be soon.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody, to the Marlene Winell after party. Godless Mom will be joining us shortly. She just had to run her little one up to the doctor real quick. Apparently, there's an ADHD issue I think they're going to be talking about. But anyways, I have sent Courtney the link, so as soon as she gets it, she'll jump right in. We have with us so far, we've got the Bible Belt Atheist. You guys quite know he likes to play video games usually while we're doing this. And then we also have Diana, the wonderful lavender lady.
Who the hell is that?
Diana's a really would you might have some fun maybe talking with Diana on her coffee with lavender.
Yeah, it's an idea.
On Sundays. Because I think any opportunity, I think, Marlene, that you get to talk about your retreats and stuff like that would be huge. I mean, what you do is helpful to people. So I think the more people out there that could spread it around would be great, right?
Phrasing meal.
What's that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be up for that, definitely. It's, like get the word out there and get more people familiar with what it is you're up to and into.
Okay, thank you.
One thing I noticed, if you don't mind, there was somebody in the side chat in the main show that was going on and on about what is this, lying to somebody or telling them untrue things is PTSD. That's a bunch of crap. Now, I'm with you, Marlene, where I can see the PTSD being a product of the whole religious thing. But, I mean, could you go on and basically see whatever it takes to straighten that person out, even though he's not here? I mean, what is it that makes the religious trauma a PTSD?
Well, for one thing, people have emotional flashbacks all the time. They get triggered. And they have all the symptoms that go with that. The anxiety, and mostly what we're talking about is complex PTSD, which means that there was a continuous, repeated kind of abuse. And
okay. So I didn't realize that there were multiple kinds of PTSD.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that's most known is related to like a single event, like you were in a car accident, or you were you had a death in the family, or some event.
And that's what this guy was talking about. Yeah, he was.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely saying that's what I think PTSD is.
Mm-hmm. So people can have a lot of anxiety around that when they remember it or when they get triggered, and it's a physiological response. You get the fight or flight reaction in your amygdala, and just by having it come back to your memory. But complex PTSD was coined by Judith Herman when she wrote about trauma and pointed out that it doesn't have to be one event. It can be a repeated series of events, like child abuse.
Yeah.
Or domestic violence, where it's many, many times. And so my argument with religious trauma is that emotional, mental abuse is just as real and just as devastating, if not more so in some cases. When somebody is terrified about going to hell, and they were taught about that when they were a small child, and it comes up just out of the blue and causes a panic attack, and this is decades later. I have one client who will have a panic attack if he's, for example, taking a pizza out of the oven and burns his finger. Just the heat.
Okay, and that would trigger a description of hell, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's trauma, and it's trauma of an emotional and mental nature. He never actually went to hell. Right? He was just told about it. But images are really powerful. Images are more closely closely aligned with emotions in your brain than words are. And the thing about teaching children about hell, they describe it in detail, with fire and torment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that can get lodged in a child's memory, and little kids hear about it over and over and over again, right? And then they become very afraid. The whole religion is fear-based because
Oh, sure. Yeah, I grant you that.
the threat is that if you don't believe as we tell you should believe, you're gonna suffer a conscious suffering for eternity. I mean, if that is an abuse, I don't know what else is.
I always kind of thought that this whole hell thing was a little bit on the ridiculous side, anyways. Because I mean, when you die and your soul goes to hell, there's no physical body there, so how would you be feeling anything?
Right.
Yeah,
and then
true.
the other question is, when your soul goes to hell, what happens to the rest of the shoe? I mean, seriously. I was really, really lucky, and I have to admit it, that I made my break early. I was maybe 10 years old when the cracks started appearing. I'm an ex-Catholic.
Uh-huh.
And
as am I.
You, I think, dealt with a bit more of the hyper-Catholicism than I did. Question mark?
Maybe. I mean, it would depend. I mean, obviously, time era is a big difference, but the whole doctrine has pretty much been the same over the past 2,000 years.
Pretty much.
So,
I mean, we're okay between the two of us. I'm talking 60s, and you're talking what, 90s?
Like 2000.
No, wait a minute, a little farther. Yeah, you're younger than I'm giving you credit for. Yeah. So take that as a compliment, that I'm taking you older.
Yeah, so I'm talking like 2000, like anywhere. See, I became Catholic in 2007. I got out 2014-ish, because I was in 7th grade. So
okay, then. Yeah, the line we got sounded to me like Dear God was a very capricious character. I've told the story many times, but the cracks started appearing at a confraternity of Christian doctrine class, because I finally managed to get into the public school system out of the Catholic school system, which was killing me. But the teacher had a topic one day of euthanasia. And I mean, besides the young kids in Siberia, that's another story. But he's describing an old man in extreme pain, terminal illness, begging for the release of death, going up and down, saying, "Okay, what would you do? What would you do? What would you do?" And of course, they're all towing the line. He comes to Clarion over here, who doesn't know any better, and starts saying, "Well, gee, I wouldn't want him suffering like that." And this guy literally screams, "But it's God's will!" And I'm looking at him.
Rip headphone users.
Yeah. And I'm looking, and I'm not saying a word, but I'm thinking really loudly, what kind of God are you worshiping? But this is what we got. That God would do anything and everything that God wanted to do to you, just because you were displeasing him. Not fun. But like I say, I was lucky I got out early.
Yeah, but wouldn't even known that you were going to do that, because he's all knowing, right?
Yeah, you would think. I mean, that's the line we got.
So he would have been prepared.
Yeah, God knows all. God is all powerful.
That's why
It's like,
I always thought the whole Garden of Eden story, because it's if he's all knowing, then he already knew ahead of time that Adam and Eve were going to fall in the garden. So basically, the whole thing's a setup.
yeah.
Just my 2 cents.
But as my Catholic mother would say, well, he might have known that they were going to fall beforehand, but he was just testing them.
Right.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. That's
How come?
That's the line.
Logical fallacies in the whole.
Yeah, but that's the kind of line that I get from her all the time with stuff with like something dealing with that. It's like, well, your God knew that all this shit was going to happen in the world, but so why did he allow it? Well, because he wanted to test humanity. I'm like,
yeah, right.
No.
Wrong.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, there's even parts in the scriptures, old and new, where it talks about how he regrets making man. Like, how can an omnipotent being have any regrets?
Well, that whole Genesis 6 thing where you've got the flood, yeah.
But then that was plagiarized off of the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Sure were.
Some of it, for sure, yeah.
And
there have been many
the
flood stories all over the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then a whole apple or the fruit or whatever you want to call it. I have to say that the people who wrote this stuff knew that it wasn't real while they were writing it. He's like, hey, this is a good story. Let's go with it. And I'm finding that more plausible than any finger from on high saying, okay, that's the way it worked. Oh, this is interesting.
Do you ever have any people that talk to you about stuff like that, Marlene? Like, how do they sort of throw these questions out? Like, how could I have been deceived into thinking that this was a thing, kind of thing?
Well, yeah, and there's something called actually there's something in the psychology literature called betrayal trauma, and that's when somebody that you trusted, that you knew and trusted and was supposed to be taking care of you, did something or told you something like a pack of lies. And so sometimes people can be hugely angry about this, and feel betrayed because it starts falling apart. All the rationalizations for the belief system start falling apart when you really look at it and you find out more. And it's pretty incredible. I actually wrote something called Top 15 Fundamentalist Mindfucks. And
I like the title.
And I mean,
the
there's
Clarion seal of approval.
One. I mean, the first one is you're born fucked, because you have original sin.
Right. Hey, Randolph.
Hello.
Hey, sweetie. Hi.
Hello again. We just talked earlier today.
Yeah, don't I know you? Haven't I seen you somewhere before?
Yeah, I was upstairs before. Now I'm downstairs. Hello, Marlene.
Hi.
I only caught the end of your show, but I took a quick look at your website. It looks like you're doing some fantastic work. Thank you.
Oh. Well, thank you for saying so. I appreciate that.
Okay, Angie, let's have a look here.
I'm going to save the last spot for Courtney when she gets back. So.
Okay, let me know, Angie, if this is any better.
Yeah.
Awesome. Look forward to meeting her.
Oh, yeah. You weren't around when I had the show with her.
Yeah.
Randolph is the guy I was telling you about earlier, Marlene. We're doing the call-in show at some point, probably coming up in the new year. So, yeah, he's been an atheist his entire life. Like he was born an atheist, basically, so to speak. I guess technically, well, no. I hear atheists actually say this often. Well, you're born an atheist. Well, you're not. You're born a blank slate, and all the information starts to get compiled onto you after you're born. So you're either indoctrinated into a belief system or you're not. You're not technically an atheist because you don't have any beliefs. So,
well, you see, I don't fully agree with you on that, Neil, because I regard atheism as a classification of just not believing in deities, and Yeah. So,
an infant doesn't have any idea of what a deity is.
So what? Do they believe in a deity? No.
Yeah, but you're missing my point. They don't believe in anything yet.
Okay.
They don't know what a belief is even at that point.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
there's no requirement for atheists to know what a belief is.
I don't know, though. It would kind of seem to be part of the whole mix to be able to form a belief in order to, say, I don't go for that.
So where I think people get hung up on it is where they get tripped up on it is there's this idea that a position must be formed before you can either do this or not. And there are people who are I find in the theism community who sometimes quite aggressively go after this and try to put it in a way that forces people to take a position, and it's kind of a bifurcated view, because there's this expectation that we believe for or against, because there's a part in Christianity and other religions as well that say either you're with God or you're against him. There's no middle ground, no other options. I don't remember which verse it is, but it is in the Bible. I've read it before, seeing that part.
And I know what you're talking about. And
it's defective. So if we take a look at the anti-prefix, having an anti-theistic attitude, okay, that would be perhaps the opposite of a theistic attitude. You believe in gods, in deities, goddesses or gods, or you believe that they don't exist. Those are two positions. But when I don't have a position on this, it really has nothing to do with belief. I just don't believe it. So I don't see why that becomes a position, because when it comes to deities, I'm kind of impartial to whether or not they exist if I don't believe in them. And that's how I see it. And part of the reason I'm doing this is because I'm trying to normalize atheism, this not believing in deities, as much as possible, because I want people to feel more comfortable with just saying that they don't believe in deities. I don't see a reason why people should have to be vilified for that. And yet there are some aggressive religious people, some, not all, who will try to push that narrative of vilifying people just because they don't conform to their belief system.
Bingo. Well, that's it. I mean, what I'm seeing when I see things like that is not so much that these people don't accept the existence of a particular deity or anything like that. It's that these people are not like us. The slimy bastards, for example, couldn't recite a plank of Catholic dogma to save their lives, but they still wore their Catholicism as an identity badge.
Oh,
and I think that was more important to them than any eternal reward or punishment.
And freedom of association is a right here in Canada, as it should be. I have no problem with any of that. Where I have a problem with it is when people start imposing it on other people and using their membership in their club to vilify people who are not in their club, just for the sake of not being in their club.
Yep. I'm with you.
But you know what? I'm not a professional psychologist. Marlene, you are, right?
Uh-huh.
What are your thoughts on this?
Well, the word atheist has huge connotation, right? It's got this whole history in this country. It's not like that everywhere. I lived in Australia for 7 years, and
cool.
Being an atheist is the norm, and it doesn't have any of that heavy meaning to it. It's more. It's
How did you find that?
We want it to be normal here too.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I mean, to live in a place where it's the norm, how did you find that?
Refreshing.
I could see that for sure.
And you can run for office. You don't have to pretend to be a Christian and do all this bullshit that Trump does.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, the impression I get is that here in the U.S. anyway, that's not going to start to become the norm. The atheism is not going to start to be until my generation dies, because a lot of that whole thing that was going on was the whole godless communists against the godly, wonderful U.S., and that lives on to this day in my peers. And it's just like, it's an
really
icky
sad.
thing. Yeah, it is. But unfortunately, that is so ingrained into the minds that it's not going away anytime soon, and it's not going away easily. The Cold War was a great motivator.
The Cold War is pretty much
Well,
what
and
started the whole God thing in the U.S. Hang on a second.
Yes, sir.
Shit.
What did you break?
Badger. But I see you wanting to jump in here, Badger, but I'm holding the last spot for. I'll get him in here so I can tell him. Badger, I'm actually holding the last spot for Courtney.
I can take off when Courtney gets here, so Badger can have more fun.
I'm just dropping in for a minute because I had something I wanted to add.
Oh, I see.
Great.
Okay.
I don't want to interrupt anyone there, so if I'm talking over anything,
Well,
finish
somebody
that
was.
first.
All right.
Oh, my Purple's got a great question. He wonders what percentage of people born in the 70s identify as atheist.
I was born in the 70s, so there's at least one here.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the really dangerous beliefs in Christian fundamentalism is that God controls governments and whether or not a nation is blessed by God. So it's not just the individual that's saved or not saved, but also whole nations. And so if people are sinning, if there are a big population of people that are sinning according to their definitions, then that endangers the whole population.
Yeah, and that's right out of the pages of the storybook.
God's going to withdraw his blessing. And that's why you get people like Jerry Falwell saying that 9/11 was the fault of gays and abortionists, and blaming misfortune on sin, and then getting really hostile to all of us that are sinning because we're bringing danger to them. And then
People are talking about
recently,
9/11 in the chat.
Pat Robertson famously, recently chiding Trump for withdrawing from Syria because he's about to lose his mandate from heaven.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Donald Trump said something about talking to God. I'll just look up the quote here. Let's see.
The guy couldn't even
If
quote
he
his
was-
favorite
if he
Bible
would talk-
verse. I don't think he's religious at all.
If he
No,
was
of
talking
course
to God,
not.
he was probably high on weed.
But nobody cares more about the Bible than Donald Trump.
Yeah, he's got the best Bible. It's got all the good words.
Yeah.
The best words, not just good words.
There you are. There you are.
Oh yeah, I have this
I have
quote.
the
He
best
says,
words.
where Donald Trump said he has a great relationship with God. Of course, it's going to be filled with superlatives. I'm surprised he didn't use more in that statement.
Maybe it's perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I
missed
the best gods.
Maybe it's perfect or perfecto.
Perfecto. Yeah.
We're in some real trouble with that guy. I mean, just the whole Oval Office prayer group. You've got the pictures taken, and everybody's laying their hands on, and it's like pray, pray, pray. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't know of any other president in my lifetime that carried this stuff that far.
Well, he's got this crazy lady as a spiritual advisor, Paula White.
Paula White.
Oh,
Yeah, her.
Have you
Oh,
seen
dear.
videos of her? I mean, speaking in tongues and everything.
oh.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, my sister did that stuff.
I've always said, like, okay, you just did this whole speaking in tongue things. Now say the same thing again. And they can never
In
do
English.
I have
Oh,
a bit
right.
of a stammer.
No,
I have
just-
a bit of a stammer sometimes. Do you reckon I could work that into speaking in tongues and start a church?
I say you give it a shot, Badger. The Church of Badger.
Why not? Yeah.
I don't want to take up too much space or anything. I just had a question I wanted to ask, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Right. Something that I don't know if you've come across or have any opinion on, but something that's been sort of my experience as a former Christian. Oh my goodness. That's perfect.
Did everybody get to read the whole caption on that?
Yeah.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. Oh dear. That fits
Let
perfectly.
Roger finish his question. Come on.
Okay, so that's been my experience as a former Christian, coming from a sort of an upbringing of Church of England Christianity, has been that it's taken a lot of it has been quite easy to unpick from my mind, but one thing that hasn't has been the idea that there's some outside supernatural force that will make things work out. And that has taken quite some unpicking in terms of actually realizing that if I want something to work out, I need to make it work out myself, rather than relying on some outside force sorting things out for me. Is that something that you'd say you've encountered in other people?
Is that for me?
Yes.
Yes, that's huge. That's huge. And it's what you might call one of our big existential dilemmas as human beings, is that we're responsible for our own lives. And that's really hard to take on if you thought that God was taking care of you and then all you have to do is try to do God's will. Although that's one of the mind fucks, actually, because how are you supposed to find God's will on every little thing? But still, you're part of a big cosmic plan. You know, you were a player in this big war of good and evil, and it was important and exciting, and you had a place in it. So coming down off of that is sometimes really hard, really big deal. To think that now it's your decision to figure out what you want to do with your life.
I found that liberating. I really did, in the sense that, oh boy, now I get to work all this out. I get to understand, or try anyway, how it works. What makes it good? What makes it bad? But I guess a lot of people just don't like that sort of thing.
Well, the two sides are
like for me. Whenever
Hold on, guys. Go ahead.
Freedom on the one side and responsibility on the other.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so you're talking about the freedom aspect, which is yes, very liberating. It's a huge relief.
Mm-hmm.
But the responsibility comes with it. Yeah,
comes with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my experience with it. It went from sort of the Christian perspective of, oh well, if you do, whether it's the works or the saved from just becoming a Christian or whatever, there's the thought that, oh well, as long as I follow God's commandments and do the rules properly and all that, everything will work out okay for me. And then that kind of morphed into a sense of just kind of like a karma thing once the God personality wasn't so much involved in my mind. And then that eventually I kind of came to the conclusion, I went through all the sort of classic thoughts of, well, that's something, hang on, what am I talking about? I went through the classic
you
thoughts
tell
of,
me, hon.
I'm trying, but it's not coming out. I went through all the classic thoughts of all the kind of talking points of, oh well, life can be whatever you make it, and then there was that kind of moment of realization of, oh shit, that means that if you don't make something of it, that's kind of your own fault.
Yeah.
Well,
so I can see from that why a lot of people might see that as a reason to stick with the religious mindset, and that there is some abdication of responsibility for if life doesn't turn out how you wanted.
Well, I think one of the things that made things break in my mind, going back to the confraternity to Christian doctrine, and I promise I won't scream, but this guy is telling me to do something that is causing another person extreme distress. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, Why would an all good, all loving God want that? But this guy's telling me it's that God's will. So that it was a tremendous shock to the psyche. But then I think that's what really got things going. And I did welcome the responsibility because I understood, believe it or not, I'm 9 years old or whatever the hell it was, that the good and the bad and the evil and the moral depended upon the effects my actions had on everybody else. So I did some particular thing, and my friend was distressed. And wait a minute, what was it about that thing I did that distressed my friend? That sort of thing.
Yeah, like
maybe I'm all full of crap. I don't know. Oh, upside down, sweetie. Hi.
Upside down.
I think
there he is.
There's a bit of
Not your witnesses here.
I think there's probably a bit of conditioning going on. There's some religious people came by my door. Most of them come by. Usually, the Mormons come by the day after Halloween here, but yeah, I'm not quite sure why that is. And they're from the U.S. most of them. But there's some Christians came by and they're asking me some stuff. So I tell them right away I'm an atheist. And one of the girls was okay with it. The other one was all shocked, like, "Oh no, this is a big, terrible thing." Her reaction was just she freaked out.
Oh my word. Yeah, I've got that more than once. You're right. No, that's terrible. You can't be an atheist. And how is it hurting you? I mean, seriously. I mean, if it's
so nice.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah, I've gone through that one more than once. Yeah, you can't be an atheist. You're a reasonably nice kid. Well, for one, what are your criteria for nice? If you're calling me nice, okay, that's a story unto itself. But yeah, atheists can be and very often are nice. Get with it.
Well, it's like any demographic. You got your nice people and you got your horrible people and then a whole bunch of people in between. And it's just normal. But you see, you touched on an important point there. There's some embedded vilification in there of saying, "Oh, you're so nice. How can you be an atheist?" It's like there's some kind of expectation that atheists are not nice. And this is part of the kind of vilification stuff that I'm trying to counter so that people... Because I feel like there's not enough people out there speaking up against it. Like I'm not trying to stop it, as I'm an advocate for freedom of expression, but I want to use people to use freedom of expression to counter it and say, well, no, here's a bunch of anecdotes I have that are not consistent with what you're saying. And especially when they come along and they say all atheists are bad, then a simple anecdote of just one experience of somebody who's not bad is already sufficient to shoot that down. And that's an easy thing to aim for. And I think when we see these opportunities, I'd love it if more people would speak up like this.
Actually, a friend of mine had a similar experience to that with a chap from, I think he said he was from possibly Saudi Arabia or somewhere like that, who he now works with or worked with at the time in England. My friend is a gay chap. Okay. And he was working with this chap who is culturally Muslim, if not practicing. I can't remember if he said the guy was in any way devout or not in that sense. But he had a lot of negative things to say about homosexuals before he discovered that my friend was, and he'd got to know him, and they were having a good chat. And then later on, he'd gone and meet some of his other people from, where he was from originally, who'd either come over to visit or they'd moved over. I can't remember. And they were saying some of the same things. He said, "Actually, I know a gay guy, and he's a really great chap. So, just kind of calm that down."
Well, that's the whole thing. You give somebody a chance to get to know us, and we don't have 3 heads. We're not out to eat your babies.
Yourself.
Mind you, having 3 heads could be pretty useful.
I mean, yeah.
I think in science fiction, I've only seen characters with 2 heads. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, yeah.
Well, wait a minute. How about Cerberus? I mean, well, I know that's not science fiction, but
I mean, that's not a human. That was a dog.
right.
It's science fantasy. It's close enough.
Okay. I mean, dogs are people too, right?
Greek mythology.
Not according to cats.
Can I follow up on something we were talking about earlier?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, fire away.
Well, we were talking about, God being in control of everything, and people like that idea. And then you find out that you're responsible for your life. And somebody mentioned karma. One of the things that's also serious is that maybe nobody's in control. You can be as responsible as you want about your life, but what if you get run over by a car, or you get cancer? It's not as if you control your life to that degree. You can make
Right.
You can make a lot of decisions, and you have a lot of consequences of your decisions. So of course there's this idea of being responsible, but ultimately life goes on, and a lot of things happen, and that's really disconcerting, right? So people want to think that somebody's in control. Somebody, even the song, he's got the whole world in his hands. I mean, people like that idea.
I used to sing that with my mother.
And even if bad things happen, they like to think that there's some good reason in the end, There was a good reason for this genocide over here, this ethnic cleansing, or this child that's got leukemia. That's the fantasy. The fantasy is that there is some kind of overall arching plan. There's somebody heading up this, at the helm of this ship. And so to let go of that is kind of tough.
To let go of the perceived leader and become independent. I guess there's a cognitive dissonance kind of interferes with making that progression, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it feels so unsafe, and safety is our biggest, most primary need, to survival, safety. So the idea that nobody's got any control over the world.
Well, we don't. We have limited influence, mostly.
Yeah. But the fantasy is a really big one, where people think that in the end there's gonna, and that's the attraction of Judgment Day and heaven and hell. The bad people are going to get punished.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, that's that need for justice. Yeah, it's, this person has been such a shit all through my memory. Something has got to make up for that. Yeah, and come on, kids. In many cases, it just doesn't happen that way.
That's one thing that I've heard quite a bit in people that I've responded to. Is one particular objection. I can't remember the name of the guy that I did a response video to, but his objection was that the serial killer would have the same fate as the fireman who spent his life saving lives. And his objection to that was that where's the justice in that?
Mm-hmm.
There ain't none, kids.
My response is kind of, there isn't any.
And it's becoming more and more outdated now as more people are favoring rehabilitation over punishment, which I think is a very good thing to be favoring. And yet there's still this whole black and white attitude about got to punish them, otherwise they'll never learn. I think it's a very outdated mode of thinking. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on rehabilitation versus punishment, Marlene.
Well, the whole criminal justice system is based on revenge.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's very insightful. Yeah.
And it's not as, and so you don't want people to get away with anything. And I think, a lot of believers don't really believe, they're not quite sure that there's going to be a hellfire to punish these dastardly deeds. And so we have to do it. So being cruel and punishing them in this life becomes important. You know, they won't admit that they're not sure that this person's going to get their comeuppance later. They want to make sure they get it now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a real punishing attitude. Punishing attitudes in school, in parenting, as if punishing is the way to affect behavior. And it's really not. There's plenty of research on that.
I could name you 2 people who thought very, very seriously that way, but that's grist for another mill. Well, that was him. He was always on me because I was not a supporter of capital punishment. And his idea, he would give me all kinds of crap for it, but his idea was that, yeah, you had to eye for an eye, life for a life, that whole thing. Had to be that whole punishment-based thing.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I saw the what's the word I'm looking for? The working end of that, if you will, throughout my childhood. But that's, as I say, grist for another mill.
And then it gets insidious when people think that poor people are being punished.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
That's
wow.
tragic. Yeah.
Well, the one I got was that, yeah, being poor was a moral failure.
Yeah.
And then what he told me back when he was still talking to me, you're poor, you're not supposed to have anything. So that's the punishment end of it again.
Mm-hmm.
It's also, and this is why we're in the situation we're in right now, where people can barely get by, or cannot get by at all.
Or the other end of it, where rich people are being blessed by God.
That whole prosperity gospel thing,
Sounds like capitalism finding its way into religion.
Who'd have thunk it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I object to the attitude that religion is personal, that it's people's private business, whatever floats your boat or helps you sleep at night. I don't think it's that simple by any means, because here we have this gigantic gap between rich and poor in our country, and it's not really being addressed, and it's essentially being supported by these kinds of notions. And so there's this huge injustice. I'm totally inconsistent. There's a huge amount of injustice based on those ideas that people could actually do something about.
Well, I've got to get to the basis of it somehow, because recently, over the past few months or few years, I'm thinking, I originally thought that, religion was for one's own self. Mm-hmm. But then that idea comes into my head, the way it's practiced. No, by its very definition, religion cannot remain within one's own self. It's got to be inflicted on other people. And with that whole definition thereof, what do you do about that to mitigate the damage? And it is damage that these folks inflict.
Sorry, I have to go. It was very nice to meet you, Marlene. Thank you for your insights. It was very interesting, and I think quite accurate. Please say hi to Godless Mum for me when she comes on, Neil.
I will,
nice
for sure.
You, Randall.
Oh, that's who's coming on.
Take care, everyone.
Take care, honey. Be good.
See you later, Randall.
Wow, I just noticed one of Thomas Westbrook's posts is getting ripped apart by some people.
Oh no.
What did he say this time?
Well, he's just got a picture of a lady, I guess, who's in a nursing home, and it says name Benita, age 91, advice for the younger generation: live a good, clean life. Yep, I'd go with that. Make God your main source. I would have to disagree with that. Let God lead you and guide you. I would have to obviously disagree with that as well. Love all the people in your life. That's what makes a good life. And I would agree with that, but that's what makes a good life. You could get rid of the God stuff, and people are saying, you shouldn't attack her beliefs, and I'm like, no. It's not like he attacked her. He was just saying that he felt that she's wasting her life on this kind of belief, and they're trying to say, that it was cringy or whatever, and that he shouldn't be attacking an old lady. And it's not. I'm like he wasn't attacking the old lady. He was attacking a belief system. People deserve respect. Beliefs are ideas, and ideas don't necessarily deserve any respect at all. I mean, I could say to this person, "You really don't attack the beliefs." Would you attack the beliefs of a Nazi or one of the people in ISIS? I'm sure you would. So don't go on about the beliefs thing. Oh, just respect beliefs. That's bullshit. It's utter bullshit.
And I can take issue with some of her points. I mean, love everyone in your life. No, I'm sorry. You can't do that. You can't be guaranteed of being able to do that. There are a couple people I could name who I thoroughly hate. Well, and I'm all right with that.
Yeah, no. What she means is the people that are reciprocating that love.
Oh, okay.
The people that are being, the people that you would love them. I'm pretty sure that's what she meant by that.
Okay, that I'm good with. Yeah. Yeah, I see there was about a half hour ago that Thomas put that up there.
Yeah. I will eventually formulate a reply to that. A lot of people replied, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that." It's like, why not?
I think my view on it is anyone's beliefs and opinions and statements should be open to criticism and,
of course,
critique and questioning. It's just sometimes it's important to be gentle with that.
Yeah, but nothing is off the table for criticism when it comes to beliefs, in my opinion.
No,
I mean,
wait a minute.
Opinions are valuable too, especially if they're informed opinions. Anyone can have an opinion, but if an informed opinion is much more valuable.
Oh, okay. That's by Undead Meowth Censor, I'm seeing. Yeah, okay, and I'm seeing. Should values be respected? Yeah, for a minute there, I wasn't sure. Should valued be respected? I was not sure what was going on there. But there's the correction. Yeah.
If they're good values, sure.
Yeah, and of course, not all opinions should be respected.
Nope. But hey, anyway, I have no idea what has happened with Courtney. I guess the doctor's appointment went a little longer than she thought it was going to.
You don't have communication back and forth, text messages, any of that stuff?
Yeah, I talked to her quite a bit on through Twitter. Actually, I think I have her phone number as well.
Okay, so I'm thinking, maybe she's just too busy to give you a call, and saying that she's busy. Could be, or something. Who knows?
Yeah. Sometimes life just gets in the way.
Yep, sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I get that. But she was quite excited to come on. So.
Well, what we can do, Neil, you can take a cue from me and run this after show for 9 hours. Yeah. And eventually Courtney will get here. There was an after show.
I'm not going to be running the after show for 9 hours. I'm sorry.
There was an after show I had recently that ran 10 and a half hours. Thank you very much, Mom NATO. Gina and I were talking back and forth for most of that time. My after shows tend to run long.
If you're having fun.
What are you going to do? This is
on
like
that,
Jeff.
On that business of respecting beliefs, I think you can distinguish between the person and their beliefs. You can say, in fact, I respect your effort to live by your belief.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
And I respect you. That doesn't mean that I have respect for a certain belief, because I might have the view that it's incorrect.
Yeah.
But I can still respect somebody's effort to live by their own belief.
I think that would be their integrity, wouldn't it? It's possible to respect their integrity to their beliefs while not agreeing with the beliefs themselves.
Belief needs to stand on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I've always said people deserve respect, beliefs not necessarily.
The problem.
Yeah, I mean, they deserve respect until they give you a reason not to respect them. Sorry, go ahead.
The problem with people that are really religious is that they become so identified. They like a Christian will simply identify as a Christian instead of a human being. So it's really hard to make the distinction that I just made.
I think
that's one of the recovery issues when people come out of it. There's often an identity problem. Who am I now?
Yeah,
I think that's part of the thing where the religious person will often say to the atheist when it comes up in discussion, well, why do you spend all your time commenting on something that you don't believe in? And they haven't kind of got the idea that they don't. That you just happen to have caught them at a time when they're chatting about that kind of stuff. I'm going to go away now and not think about it for the rest of the week.
Well, we have somebody called Mike Pence.
Oh,
who says
that guy?
One of my favorite people.
Who says, I'm first of all a Christian.
Yes.
Oh dear.
And then vice president. He has said that point blank. That's his identity.
Well, he's a dominionist, isn't he?
A dominionist?
Okay, this is a member of I don't know if they're an official group or a class of people or whatever, who believe that the Dominion should come to this country. Basically a theocracy, God come to rule through the Dominionists, that sort of basically turn this into a Christian Sharia.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
A theocracy, yeah.
Yeah. And I would have all sorts of fun in a situation like that. But of course, what are you going to do?
Not much in that situation.
Yeah, and I can't run anywhere because I'm too old and too poor.
You'll have to not eat any shellfish.
There are those who have said, that they want, in the United States, they want Levitical law. Yeah, try living that, babe.
Mixed fabrics, anyone?
Yeah.
A lot of executions.
I think they kind of look forward to that. It's almost like they seem to get an exhilaration when they think about stoning someone to death, I mean, have you seen some of these pastors going on about it? Who was the young kid? He was about 22 years old, I think. It was going on about all the gays should die. And he's looking, ecstatic.
I was chatting to somebody like that on Twitter.
There are plenty of those, yeah. Let me tell you. Matt Powell. That's the that little, yeah. Takes me a while to come up with the names, but I do drag them up.
Powell.
I mean, hey, I would forget my own name were it not on my passport, so never leave home without it.
I've done a couple of responses to Matt Powell. He appeared in the comments of one of them, telling me to stop shadow boxing or something like that.
Okay, then.
So then I said to him, something like I said to him something like, well, what are your comments on what I've said? And he didn't reply.
Uh-huh.
Hey,
I remember.
So just wanted to say I'm really glad to meet all of you.
Thanks for doing this with us, Marlene.
Well, thanks for coming on in here and putting up with me, and well, the rest of these kids are pretty nice, but you know.
It's good to meet you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comments on my question, though. Thanks for your comments on my question as well. It's been bouncing around my head for a little while that you're kind of being responsible for your own life means being responsible for your own life.
Yeah. Well, your head's kind of bouncy there, sweetness. So we expect that. Marlene, where could I get hold of you as far as setting up a date for a show? If you can make Sunday noon Eastern at all.
Yeah, that would be fine. You can find my contact information on my website, which is journeyfree.org.
Journeyfree. Okay. Let's see if we can
I'll send you the information down. I have it all.
Oh, danke schön.
Okay.
And I'll have
my
you guys get in touch.
email is on there.
Beautiful. I'm loving it.
You're getting lots of love from the comments section, Marlene.
Oh, they're wonderful peoples. Yes, every one of them.
Mm.
All right. Well, we might as well bring this to a close. I'll have to ream Courtney out for. Well, I won't really, because I mean, taking care of your kids is important. Anyways, Marlene, thanks again for our chat earlier today and for jumping in here with a bunch of us crazy people.
You're welcome. It was a good time.
Yeah, I'm glad. I had a great time. I'm glad you did as well. And thanks to all you guys for jumping in here with us. Mm-hmm. And also thanks to everyone who tuned in to hang out and hear us go back and forth with this belief stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed the show.
Yay!
My next one will be on Saturday. Let me just get it out here.
Saturday? Oh, my.
Yep, Saturday with Megan the Artist. And then Monday on November 11th, it'll be a Raging Atheist. And then Wednesday on November 13th, the one and only Anthony Magna Bosco and I will be having.
Oh, my! He is such a sweetie. You're going to love talking to him.
Oh, I've already met him in person, and he took me for lunch. So.
Oh, yay. That's a good thing. Very, very good thing.
Anthony's great people. Anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the show. I already said that. I'm repeating myself. It happens. I'm old. Anyway, so until next time, guys, like the late great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time.
There you are.